Kevin Stefanski made one statement, and it set off an earthquake across the NFL. When the Browns head coach flatly declared that Shedeur Sanders was not being considered as a backup quarterback, he didn't just close a roster discussion. He opened a full-blown controversy. Within hours, analysts like Stephen A. Smith and Cam Newton were already firing shots, questioning whether this was about football or control. For a fifth-round rookie, Sanders has drawn more attention than some Pro Bowl veterans.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
His fan support is unlike anything Cleveland has seen in years, and that's exactly why this decision feels like more than coaching strategy. Stephen A. Smith called it a move driven by narrative management, not performance. Cam Newton didn't hold back either, accusing the Browns of protecting the status quo and suppressing Sanders' rise. Both men see the same issue: fear of what happens when a young quarterback with charisma, confidence, and massive fan backing starts shaking up an already fragile organization. Inside the Browns building, Stefanski's decision seems to have more layers than he's admitting. The optics matter here. Sanders' popularity has grown far beyond his draft slot, and the organization appears desperate to keep control over the conversation. By keeping him behind Joe Flacco, Stefanski sends a message: the hierarchy is fixed, and no amount of public pressure will change it. But that message might be backfiring. Sanders isn't staying quiet. He's made it clear he's ready to start, ready to compete, and tired of being treated like a developmental project. His frustration has become fuel for his supporters, who are now flooding social media, demanding change. It's rare for a rookie to create this kind of movement, but Sanders isn't a typical rookie. His name, his background, and his confidence have turned him into a lightning rod. And the more Stefanski resists, the bigger the storm grows. Stephen A. Smith's criticism cut especially deep because it reflected what so many fans already feel. This isn't about readiness. It's about politics. When Sanders fell to 144th overall in the draft, it wasn't because of his skill. It was because of perception. Because of who his father is, because of assumptions about media hype and influence. Those same perceptions are now dictating his path again, and Smith didn't hesitate to call it out. Cam Newton's defense of Sanders added fuel to the fire. Newton reminded everyone how rare it is for a rookie in that position to command this kind of loyalty. He called it proof of Sanders' authenticity and leadership, qualities Cleveland should be embracing, not burying. Now, the Browns are stuck between a decision and a disaster. Every week Sanders sits, the pressure grows. Every loss, every offensive struggle, every soundbite from Stefanski feeds the perception that this isn't about football anymore. It's about control. And in Cleveland, control always seems to come before progress. The more the Browns resist, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just about who's under center. It's about who gets to tell the story. Let's not pretend this is just about a quarterback depth chart. This is about control. This is about ego. This is about the Cleveland Browns deciding they'd rather preserve the illusion of order than embrace the chaos of potential greatness. And the chaos? His name is Shedeur Sanders. When Kevin Stefanski said point blank that Sanders is not being considered for the backup quarterback role, he didn't just deliver a football decision. He dropped a hammer on a conversation that was already boiling, and that one statement sent the NFL world into full meltdown mode. Shedeur isn't just some fifth-round rookie. He isn't just another guy trying to sneak onto a practice squad. He's one of the most polarizing and followed names to come out of college in years. He came into the league with a spotlight most rookies spend seasons chasing. And now, he's being treated like a distraction rather than an asset. And let's talk about that fan support, because it's not normal. Most third-string quarterbacks are anonymous. They blend into the sideline, they get 2-second cameos in preseason, and that's it. Shedeur? He's getting trending hashtags. He's selling jerseys. He's generating more conversation than starters on other teams. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because the public sees something the Browns are choosing to ignore. But the real kicker? Stefanski didn't just say Sanders needs time. He didn't say the competition is open. He didn't give the standard coach speak about developing talent. He made it explicit. Sanders isn't even being considered. It's Joe Flacco or bust. That kind of firm dismissal is what turned this into a firestorm. Because let's be honest, what exactly did Sanders do to deserve that kind of cold shoulder? This is a guy who's shown up, kept his head down, and still managed to become the most talked about name in that locker room. He hasn't demanded headlines. They follow him. And instead of leveraging that energy, the Browns are burying it. Cam Newton, who's been in the pressure cooker before, said it best. This isn't about strategy. This is about narrative control. The Browns don't want the Shedeur hype train derailing the veteran hierarchy. They don't want the noise. They want safe, predictable, quiet. But here's the problem. This story isn't quiet anymore. It's loud. Stephen A. Smith didn't just join the conversation. He cracked it open. He brought up what nobody in the Browns front office wants to admit, that Shedeur's draft stock and now his treatment is rooted in perception, not talent, not readiness. Perception. As in he's Deion Sanders' kid, as in he's bringing too much spotlight, as in he doesn't fit the NFL's mold for how a fifth-round rookie should behave. Smith pointed out that Shedeur was passed on 144th overall, not because he lacked the talent, but because teams feared the media storm, the expectations, and, frankly, the name. And now, even after proving he can handle the noise, the Browns are acting like that spotlight is still a liability. Let's call this what it is, gatekeeping. They don't want to deal with what happens when a rookie with influence threatens the order. Because when a third stringer becomes more popular than the starter, that makes people uncomfortable. It disrupts the chain of command. It challenges the myth that the best talent always rises on merit alone. And right now, Sanders is the living, breathing contradiction to that myth. He's talented. He's confident. He's ready. He knows he's ready. He's said as much publicly. Not with arrogance, but with the kind of clarity you only get from someone who's been doubted their entire career and has receipts for every step. He's said he can outperform some NFL starters. He's said he deserves a shot. And when he says that, it doesn't sound like ego, it sounds like truth. The kind of truth that teams don't always want to hear when they've already made up their minds. The Browns, instead of listening, shut it down. And the fans? They're not having it. This isn't just a handful of supporters online. This is a growing wave of people, fans, analysts, ex-players, who are watching this unfold and asking the obvious question. Why is this kid not getting a shot? Every week the Browns struggle offensively. Every time Joe Flacco checks down on 3RD and 9, every drive that ends in a punt. It adds fuel to the fire. Not because Shedeur is some guaranteed savior, but because the Browns haven't even considered giving him a real opportunity. That's the issue. It's not that he's not playing. It's that they've boxed him out completely. And that sends a message, whether the team realizes it or not. It tells players that media attention is dangerous. It tells rookies that confidence is a red flag. It tells fans that talent doesn't matter as much as protecting the hierarchy. The Browns are making a statement. They just don't seem to understand what that statement really says. And the longer they dig in, the more this starts to feel like a team choosing control over competition. Choosing silence over spark. Choosing Joe Flacco's experience over Shedeur Sanders' momentum. But here's the thing about momentum. It doesn't wait. The calls for Sanders to be given a shot aren't going away. If anything, they're growing. Every time a respected voice like Cam Newton or Stephen A. speaks out, it adds legitimacy to the outrage. Every fan post, every sports headline, every debate segment adds more weight. And eventually, the Browns won't be able to hide behind the coach's decision line anymore. The pressure is building. And it's not just outside the locker room. At some point, it's going to hit inside, because players see what's happening, too. They know talent when they see it. And they know when someone's getting iced out for reasons that have nothing to do with football. This isn't sustainable. There are only 3 ways this can end. 1. The Browns cave to pressure and elevate Sanders, hoping the backlash dies down. 2. They stick to their guns, and it blows up in their face when the offense sputters and fans turn on them. Or 3. They let him walk, and someone else gives him the shot Cleveland never would. And if that third option happens, and Sanders thrives somewhere else, that's legacy-destroying stuff. Kevin Stefanski will be remembered not for what he built, but for who he buried. The Browns will become the cautionary tale. The what-if franchise that let politics, perception, and fear outweigh potential. Because Shedeur's not going away. This isn't someone you can quietly stash behind a clipboard and hope the hype dies down. He's too loud, too relevant, too ready. He's forcing a conversation the NFL hasn't wanted to have. What happens when a rookie comes in with more brand power than the organization he plays for? Right now, the Browns are showing they have no idea how to handle that. But they better figure it out fast, because the spotlight isn't leaving. The noise isn't fading. And Shedeur Sanders isn't backing down. He's already won the public. Now the only thing left is the playing time. And when, not if, he finally gets it, the receipts will be brutal. Let us know in the comments. Do you think the Browns are burying Sanders on purpose? Should Stefanski be held accountable for ignoring the pressure? And when this situation blows up, who's going to be left cleaning up the mess? Subscribe for more breakdowns of the biggest sports controversies, media meltdowns, and franchise flops you need to know about. This saga? It's only getting messy, eh? Stay tuned. Let's keep unpacking the drama, because what's happening in Cleveland is no longer just a quarterback controversy. It's a slow-motion public relations implosion that the Browns brought entirely on themselves. At the center of it all is a rookie quarterback who should be the future of the franchise, or at the very least, a reason for optimism. But instead of nurturing the energy and fan interest Shedeur Sanders brings, the Browns are actively pushing it away. It's not even subtle. It's not a quiet he needs to develop or will evaluate things in camp. No. Kevin Stefanski stood there and flat out said Sanders isn't being considered as a backup. Let's pause on that again, because it bears repeating. Shedeur Sanders, a player who has generated unprecedented support for a third-string rookie, isn't even in the conversation for a backup role. The coach didn't even leave the door cracked. He bolted it shut. And now, the backlash is flooding through the cracks. What Stefanski probably thought was a safe, procedural decision has backfired in the worst way possible. He underestimated the spotlight. He underestimated the culture shift in the NFL. And he definitely underestimated how many people have been waiting for the league to stop pushing players like Shedeur into the margins. Because let's be honest, if Sanders had been drafted higher, say second round, this entire situation looks different. The talking points would be about developing a future starter, building around young energy, and embracing the primetime pedigree. But because he dropped to 144th, because some GMs feared his name more than his talent, now he's suddenly unworthy of even competing? That's the real issue. This isn't about readiness. It's about politics. It's about image control. And it's about an NFL team choosing to gatekeep their narrative instead of opening the door to possibility. And it's not just fans who see it. Cam Newton came right out and said it. This looks personal. He wasn't vague. He didn't play nice. He called it what it is, unfair. He called out the fact that Sanders has built a type of fan connection that is rare in this league, especially for a rookie. Newton's been there. He knows what it's like to have the spotlight put on you early. And he knows what it looks like when the system tries to dim it. Stephen A. Smith? Even more blunt. He pointed the finger directly at the Browns brass and accused them of narrative control. That they're not making decisions based on football, but on fear. Fear of media attention. Fear of distractions. Fear of what it looks like when a fifth-rounder becomes bigger than the system. Because here's what they don't want to admit. Shedeur Sanders is already bigger than their system. This is a player whose presence alone brings in eyeballs, headlines, and fans. People want to see what he can do. And the Browns' refusal to give him even a glimpse of opportunity? It looks deliberate. It looks defensive. It looks scared. And that fear is now turning into fuel for one of the most vocal fan movements we've seen in recent memory. Go online. Look at any Browns post. Look at any NFL update involving quarterbacks. The replies are flooded with the same three words: free Shedeur Sanders. This is no longer just a fan suggestion, it's a rally cry. And it's growing. Because every time Joe Flacco takes a meaningless snap in practice, people are asking, why isn't Shedeur out there instead? Every time a Browns drive ends in a 3-and-out, fans are wondering, could Sanders have extended that play? Could he have made something happen? It's not just curiosity anymore, it's frustration. And it's turning into pressure. And you already know how that works in the NFL. Pressure doesn't just sit still. It moves. It builds. And then it breaks something. Right now, that something is the Browns' carefully managed narrative. They wanted to keep things tidy. Veteran starter. Veteran backup. Rookies developing quietly. But the moment Stefanski made his dismissive comment about Shedeur not being in consideration, he blew a hole through the middle of that plan. Because now everything is being viewed through the lens of why not Shedeur. And that's not just a fan-driven issue. It's creeping into locker room morale. It's seeping into team culture. Players talk. Players see the support. They read the same tweets. They see the fan signs. They hear the analysts. And eventually, they start wondering too, why isn't he getting a fair shot? That's when a controversy goes internal. That's when trust erodes, not just in the media, but within the building. And once that happens, you don't just have a PR problem. You have a leadership crisis. And make no mistake, this is a leadership crisis. Stefanski didn't just mismanage a quarterback room. He mishandled the moment. He underestimated what Shedeur represents. This isn't just a quarterback with confidence. This is a quarterback with momentum, with presence, with purpose. And trying to control that, trying to suffocate it, has only made it louder. Let's look the options the Browns have now, because there aren't many, and none of them are clean. Option 1. Stick to their guns, ride it out, and pray that the veterans deliver. But if they don't? If the team struggles, if the offense stalls, if Flacco looks washed, the crowd turns fast. And Stefanski becomes the scapegoat. Option 2. Cave under pressure and bump Shedeur to QB2 or give him playing time. But now it looks reactive. Now it looks like they only did it because they had to. That's not leadership, that's damage control. Option 3. Keep suppressing him and watch another team trade for him next year, let him shine, and make the Browns look like fools for not seeing what everyone else did. Spoiler alert, that third option? It's a career killer. Because if Shedeur ends up balling out somewhere else, the receipts will be everywhere. Clips of Stefanski saying he's not being considered. Analysts rehashing every bad Browns decision. Fans saying they knew all along. It'll be brutal. And deserved. Because this could have been handled differently. It could have been transparent. It could have been about development, about growth, about open competition. But instead, the Browns chose to shut it all down with one sentence. And that sentence is now hanging over the franchise like a thundercloud. Shedeur Sanders didn't ask for this drama. He didn't orchestrate a media campaign. He didn't storm into camp demanding to start. He showed up. He's confident. He believes in himself. And for some reason, that's being treated like a threat. But here's what the Browns can't stop: the clock. Because the longer this drags on, the more inevitable it becomes. At some point, whether due to injury, performance, or pressure, he's going to play. And when he does, the stakes are sky high. Because if he performs, if he delivers, if he proves what everyone's been saying, then the Browns aren't just wrong. They're exposed. Exposed for being scared of the moment. Exposed for gatekeeping talent. Exposed for letting their own insecurities block the rise of a player who was ready from day one. And the fans won't forget. So where does this leave us? With a franchise at war with itself. A quarterback ready to rise. A coach trying to hold the dam together. And a fan base that sees through it all. It's no longer a matter of if Shedeur Sanders gets a shot. It's a matter of when, and how much damage the Browns do to themselves before that moment finally arrives. At this point, it's not even about Shedeur Sanders anymore. It's about what he represents. This situation has become bigger than just one player. It's now a case study in what happens when an NFL franchise refuses to evolve with the times. When an organization gets so caught up in protecting its structure that it loses sight of opportunity. When leadership becomes more about keeping things quiet than making bold, smart moves. Shedeur isn't just a talented quarterback waiting for a shot. He's the trigger for a larger conversation about the NFL's comfort zone. About who gets chances and who gets told to wait. About how much of development is actually development, and how much is politics disguised as patience. And for Kevin Stefanski, this might be the beginning of the end, not because he benched a rookie, but because he did it so aggressively, so dismissively, so publicly that now every decision he makes will be second-guessed through this lens. If Flacco has a bad game, it's Stefanski's fault. If the offense underperforms, it's Stefanski's fault. If the locker room feels flat, the fans get restless, the season slips away, it all circles back to this. To that decision. To that moment where he said, on the record, that Shedeur Sanders isn't even being considered for backup. You can't walk that back. You can't spin it. It's there forever. And meanwhile, Shedeur just keeps waiting. And the longer he waits, the more powerful the narrative becomes. If he gets a shot and does well, Stefanski's finished. If he never gets that shot and thrives somewhere else, the Browns will wear that shame like a badge. This isn't about rushing a rookie. It's about letting someone compete. It's about acknowledging the reality that this isn't a typical third-string quarterback. This is a player who came in with more upside, more poise, and more cultural capital than most day-one starters. And instead of building something around that, the Browns decided to ignore it. Pretend it's not there. But everyone else sees it. The media sees it. The fans see it. The players see it. And now, the Browns are trapped in a narrative that they wrote themselves. There's still time to fix it, but not much. The longer they keep Shedeur locked away on that bench, the worse this is going to look. Because no matter how hard they try, the noise is only getting louder. And when the truth finally hits the field, there'll be no more hiding. Drop a comment below. Do you think the Browns will reverse course before it's too late? Or are we watching another franchise fumble greatness in real time? And don't forget to subscribe, because the way this saga's unfolding, you're going to want front row seats for every second of it.